From Jerusalem. A massive manhunt is continuing throughout the West Bank in search of 3 missing teenagers who are feared to have been abducted since they disappeared on Thursday night. The teenagers have been identified as 19-year-old Eyal Ifrach of Elad, 16-year-old Gilad Sheir of Talmon, and Naftali Frankel of Nofi Alon, who's also 16, and a dual U.S.-Israeli citizen. Both Sheir and Frankel study at the Makor Chaim Yeshiva in Kfar Etzion. Joining us now with the latest is IBA's Aryeh O'Sullivan. Aryeh.
Thank you, Aaron. It's been about 42 hours since the 3 teenagers went missing, and about 25 hours since the army announced that they were feared kidnapped and had launched a huge manhunt in Judea to find them. A few hours ago, Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon held consultations with the IDF brass and told reporters that Israel was working on the assumption that the 3 youth were alive, and they had no concrete evidence to the contrary. While he didn't say specifically that the 3 had been kidnapped, he acknowledged that this was likely their fate. He said that Israel had foiled 14 attempts by Palestinians to abduct Israelis so far this year, and that in 2013, Israeli security forces had foiled some 30 kidnapping attempts. This one passed under our radar, Ya'alon said. At this moment, and since yesterday, large forces have been sweeping through Palestinian villages in Judea, particularly in the Hebron area, in search of any trace of the trio. The army rushed in the entire elite paratrooper brigade to reinforce the operation. Israeli security forces detained over a dozen residents of Hebron, which is a Hamas stronghold, and Palestinian reports say that Israeli troops were also confiscating video from privately owned security cameras in the Hebron area for clues to the fate of the teenagers. The 3, who were students at a yeshiva in Gush Etzion, disappeared as they were hitchhiking late Thursday. Yesterday, a Palestinian Salafist group connected with the Iraqi and Syrian-based ISIL terror group claimed on the internet to have kidnapped the 3 to avenge the killing of 3 members of their organization near Yatta 7 months ago. But there is doubt about the authenticity of this statement. Meanwhile, Israel's chief rabbis called for prayers for the safety of the missing youth. Hundreds gathered at the Western Wall to recite psalms and other biblical passages read at the times of distress, while others prayed throughout the country. On the political front, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been holding almost non-stop consultations with members of the security cabinet and security heads. Last night, Israel announced that it holds the PA responsible for the teenagers' safety.
Israel holds President Abbas, the Palestinian leader, accountable. He is responsible for the safety and the return of those 3 young men.
The Palestinians promptly rejected this as absurd. General Adnan al-Damiri, a spokesman for the Palestinian security forces, said the kidnapping took place in Israeli-controlled territory. He said even if there was an earthquake, Netanyahu would blame the Palestinian Authority.
Aryeh, now Israel and the Palestinian Authority have retained security cooperation even though the peace talks have come to a halt. Are the Palestinians cooperating with Israeli forces in searching for the missing youths?
Well, both Israeli and Palestinian sources have told me that the cooperation is continuing even now.
Good.
There is a running contact between the 2 sides, which is also necessary on a tactical level to prevent unnecessary clashes with Israeli troops, which may be operating in areas patrolled by Palestinian security forces. But also, presumably, there is also a sharing of intelligence. However, this has drawn the wrath of Hamas, which has just entered into a unity government with Fatah. Their spokesman in Gaza has blasted the cooperation with the Israelis. The coordination with the enemy to locate the heroes of Hebron and the operation there and arrest them is a stigma, the Hamas spokesman said. The story is developing, and if there are any updates during our broadcast, we will be sure to report them to you. Aaron?
All right, thank you very much for that update. We hope to see you later. Here now is the